We're kicking off today with Brock Lesnar, who's been pulled from WWE for the time being due to the Beast being referenced in Janelle Grant's lawsuit against Vince McMahon. Ms. Grant alleges that, among other heinous acts, she was trafficked to a former UFC heavyweight champion, with Lesnar being identified as the alleged party. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said Lesnar isn't going to be around for a while, and added that some people in WWE think that his days as a WWE superstar are done. With that said, Meltzer noted that if somebody can draw, they always seem to find a way back, though it's worth mentioning that this was the case under McMahon's administration. Things could be far different with Ari Emanuel calling the big shots, and for now, it's unclear when, if ever, fans will see Brock Lesnar in a WWE ring again. In the midst of these allegations, Lesnar has been asked to quit by WWE, and negotiations are going on between the two sides. It's worth stating that Triple H is not involved in this matter, but WWE's legal team is dealing with Brock, but for the time being, he remains under contract. Lesnar has been scheduled for a program with Dominic Mysterio, which will now have to be changed, and what do you make of this situation? Let us know down below. By winning the 2024 Men's Royal Rumble match, Cody Rhodes has guaranteed himself a world title match at WrestleMania, but who will he face in April? Until recently, it seemed destined that Cody would once again challenge Roman Reigns, making up for last year's crushing defeat, and now Rhodes is heading to SmackDown. On Twitter, Cody confirmed that he'll be at this Friday's SmackDown, but didn't disclose what he was going to say or do, though a confrontation with the Bloodline is likely. Prior to CM Punk's triceps injury, it was a sure thing that fans would get to see Cody Roman 2 in April, but on this week's Raw, Seth Rollins encouraged Rhodes to face him instead. In a tweet of his own, Seth shared a video about their segment, which saw Rollins ask Rhodes to look in his heart and see what kind of champion he wants to be. Clearly, Cody Rhodes, or rather WWE's writers, have a huge decision ahead of them, and the promotion is weighing up all options in front of them when it comes to WrestleMania. That's according to WrestleVotes, who pointed out that due to CM Punk's injury, Rollins' questionable status, and Brock Lesnar being pulled from TV, the card has taken a turn. One source in WWE said that a number of brand new card variations are on the table, which include some superstars who were not positioned for a top spot just days ago. It was added that WWE will take their time to figure things out and consider just about everything before publicly confirming plans for the 40th annual WrestleMania. This year's show will be a milestone, but it is definitely going off the path WWE had initially planned, and we'll have to see who fits in where this April in Philadelphia. Over to NXT, and in the Dusty Classic, Carmelo Hayes caught Joaquin Wilde midair with a double knee facebuster before Trick Williams got the win with a running knee strike. This match with the LWO was as good as advertised, with wild spots consistently from both teams, and while it wasn't spotless, it showed the ingenuity tag team wrestling can bring. NXT is all in on Trick for Vengeance Day, and though he's relatively new with just over 2 years of experience, he'll be pulling double duty at the upcoming show. NXT officials trust he is ready, and Vengeance Day could be the night he becomes a lasting star, regardless of the result in either of his matches. If he can pull it off, Trick Melo Gang vs. Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin, followed by Trick vs. Ilja Dragunov, will be phenomenal moments in NXT history. In a backstage segment, Melo warned Trick once again about Dragunov's mind games, adding another layer of intrigue into what'll happen at Vengeance Day. NXT also saw North American champion Obafemi lay out the LWO and Dragon Lee, standing tall afterward, as Femi is the favorite in his title match with Lee at Vengeance Day. Earlier in the day, Lyra Valkyria asked Tatum Paxley about her actions last week and implored her to stay out of the champion's business. Despite this, Paxley faced Lyra's #1 contender Roxanne Perez, who easily won with Pop Rocks, and would also cut off an attempted post-match attacks by Paxley. Paxley lost focus in the match after she hit a Valkyria pendulum kick in front of the champion on commentary, and seemed distracted by Lyra at ringside. It was Valkyria who pulled Perez off Paxley after the match in a simple segment, and the commentary team was discussing whether Lyra might be welcoming Tatum's heel support. Valkyria and Perez stood face to face days before their match to end the segment, and while Paxley should have gotten in more offense, Perez couldn't afford to look weak. Valkyria should win at Vengeance Day, and there should be a focus on the way she wins, as it feels like either woman could turn heel during or after the match. When Lexis King gifted Ava a basket of his own merchandise, the NXT GM booked him in a match with Ridge Holland, who held control of the action until Gallus arrived. The distraction allowed King to hit the coronation to win, and post-match, Gallus blasted Holland's leg with a steel chair, ending a somewhat underwhelming segment. Holland and King had little chemistry and less crowd interest, and this was the thrown-together match that used up time that could have served established storylines better. While King needed a more legitimate victory, Holland remains the more engaging performer, though even he is still struggling to get a strong footing with the NXT crowd yet. The feud with Gallus might get more interesting when someone backs Holland up, but until then, it feels like we're getting the same uninspired story every single week. On NXT, Dijak and Joe Gacy brawled in Hard Justice's private office, and the brawl continued until Gacy was kicked into a dumpster. Ava would then declare that Gacy and Dijak will face off in a no DQ match at Vengeance Day, in what will no doubt be a violent encounter. In the latest chapter in the Chase U saga, Duke Hudson played a tribute video for Andre Chase, which featured a surprising amount of expletives from the Professor. Just as Chase was ready to say goodbye, Jayne announced a Ladies of Chase U calendar that'll save the university from financial ruin, overjoying Andre and the others. Overjoyed, Chase named Jayne an official member of Chase U, which seemed to sit uneasy with her, and ignoring the logic of Chase giving up before checking Jayne's plan, this was fun. Now is certainly not the time to end Chase U, which have main roster potential, and hopefully this calendar will bring Chase, Hall, Jayne, Hudson, and Osborne back on track. It certainly is likely that there will be more complications along the way. Jayne is still not completely trustworthy and may have a more dastardly plan. Lexis King interrupted the backstage celebration of Chase U until Osborne told him to back off again, teasing something between the two down the line. On this week's Raw, Drew McIntyre was thrilled to have injured CM Punk during the Men's Royal Rumble match, robbing Punk of a main event match at WrestleMania 40. CM Punk vowed that when he's back, Drew will be the first guy he faces, but WWE is seemingly teasing a massive feud that may never make it to TV. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was noted that September is a reasonable time to expect a CM Punk return, but Drew may not even be a WWE superstar by then. It was said that McIntyre's current WWE contract does not go past April, and that situation has been the case for a while, so he may be gone by the time Punk is back. WWE is leaving contract negotiations far closer to the expiry date than in the past, and some have even suggested Drew will debut for AEW at All In this August. On Raw, McIntyre attacked the injured Punk, adding some more heat to their feud, but there's a solid chance that this is all building to a match that'll never happen. CM Punk's injury is heartbreaking for Punk and causes a ton of problems for WWE, but there is a silver lining to the dark cloud surrounding WrestleMania 40. On his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker T was asked if Punk's injury is good for other superstars, and while he doesn't like thinking that way, that is the case. He responded, "I'm not looking for anything like that myself. Right now, just coming off the Rumble, you look at the talent pool, you got a plethora of talent right now. There's so many guys on the roster that can step into that spot and become something and make themselves. To be able to make stars, you got to put them in a position to become stars. I just think we got an opportunity here. We got a huge opportunity, especially with Punk going down. Even though Punk, that's a great match. Either one of those guys, if Seth wins, it's great. If Punk wins, it's great. But Punk is already a made man, and Seth is already a made man. I'm looking forward to making somebody." Punk won't just miss WrestleMania, but several premium live events, including likely SummerSlam, so there's plenty of time for somebody to step up into that main event. From Gunther to Bron Breakker, Jey Uso to Damian Priest, there's plenty of stars ready for that next move, and somebody could seriously be benefiting from Punk's absence. But what do you think of all this, and who do you hope to see get elevated in response to Punk's injury? Give us your picks in the comments below. In September of last year, Matt Riddle was cut from WWE and was one of the biggest stars let go during the first wave of releases of the TKO era. Given his history of stirring up trouble, many in WWE were likely relieved to see Riddle be shown the door, but the original bro is optimistic about a return. In an interview with Chris Van Vliet, Riddle discussed a possible return to WWE and believes there's precedent set for shocking returns. He said, "If CM Punk could come back, I could definitely come back. I have no ill will. I'm thankful for the opportunity they gave me." Riddle has previously said he feels a reunion with Randy Orton is guaranteed, and for someone who just lost their job, Matt is very confident that his release is only temporary. Until then, Riddle will compete on the independents and recently debuted for New Japan. And do you think we'll see Riddle back in a WWE ring? Sound off down below. One name fans won't be seeing again in WWE is Vince McMahon, who unlike his previous exit from WWE, doesn't have the same power that he used in 2023 to force a comeback. McMahon is alleged to have abused and trafficked Janelle Grant, including forcing her into committing degrading acts in a lawsuit that has sent shockwaves in wrestling. While speaking on his latest One of a Kind podcast, RVD talked about McMahon and shared his take on what he's read in the lawsuit so far. He said, "I still probably haven't seen all the pieces. From what I saw, it was pretty shocking. I can't imagine the Vince McMahon that I know speaking like the person that texted those messages. It seemed like it was coming from a depraved 17-year-old or something. My first thought was, come on, Vince really said all that? I know the belief is that they can prove it and that it's legitimate and credible sources. It just leaves me a little bewildered. I can't imagine that. It makes me wonder, billionaires that are world leaders, what do they do for fun? You see these movies where they let people out in the woods and hunt them down and shoot them, like a rich people's game. If any of this stuff is based on some truth, I make the comparison there. Someone that has such a hunger for power that they need to control someone. That's about Vince. I can't say anyone else mentioned would surprise me quite as much." TKO recently submitted SEC filings confirming McMahon's resignation, and there's a belief that anyone associated with Vince may be seen as a PR liability going forward. Will more people leave WWE due to this lawsuit? That remains to be seen. But what do you make of this whole situation? Share your take on this shocking news below. More from NXT, and when Elektra Lopez faced Lola Vice, Lopez dominated throughout the match, but all it took was a roundhouse kick from Vice to secure the win over La Madrina. While Ariana Grace was outmatched by Fallon Henley, the timely interference of a big boot from Lash legend changed everything and helped Grace score an unlikely win. In Heritage Cup action, Noam Dar used Ora Mensa's distraction to get the first fall and would score the second pinfall after sending Von Wagner shoulder first into a steel post. Wagner actually battered Dar in the first round, but took it too slow and ran out of time. His post-match attack on Dar, not knowing there was a break, didn't do Wagner any favors. Dar trapped Wagner in a knee bar in round 3, and the big man had to wait out the clock as he could not escape, but would not tap out. Afterward, Dar and Mensa mocked Mr. Stone's kids who had been watching from the crowd until Wagner sent Mensa through the announce table, though this segment was pretty bad. Wagner was moving in slow motion early on until Dar took over, and the flow of the match was almost equivalent to a squash, an odd break from how Dar is usually booked. 2024 could have been a restart for Wagner, but his credibility remains in the dirt, and his fun segments with Stone can't make up for his lack of effective in-ring booking. Hopefully a real challenger is on the horizon for Dar. He needs someone at the level of Dragon Lee or Nathan Frazier again to make the Heritage Cup scene interesting. Trick Williams questioned if Ilja Dragunov was playing mind games with him, only to be told not to worry about what Carmelo Hayes was saying, and Dragunov even gave Trick a hug. Dragunov said he'd helped Trick become the man he is today more than Carmelo Hayes, before Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin attacked the two, with Melo making the save. Neither Trick nor Dragunov said anything all that new, but this is thankfully a strong story, with Williams coming across as the heir to the NXT title. Dragunov has looked invincible, but it seems that Melo will decide Trick's fate and not the Mad Dragon, with signs pointing to a heel turn by Hayes at Vengeance Day. Backstage before the end of the night, Breakker and Corbin sounded tighter than ever as a tag team. Corbin even accepted the Wolf Dog's name. As for the NXT title picture, Melo didn't look happy that Trick's focus went back to Dragunov after the ring was cleared, adding another layer to this angle. Trick versus Melo for the NXT Championship would certainly be a phenomenal headliner for Stand and Deliver, though we'll have to see how things play out at Vengeance Day first. Last year it was reported that Seth Rollins was going to be a part of the upcoming Captain America Brave New World film, where he'd play a member of the Serpent Society. Rollins was even spotted in costume, which fans quickly recognized as belonging to the villainous King Cobra, but don't expect the Architect in the MCU anymore. According to Marvel Insider Can We Get Some Toast, the Serpent Society has been completely removed from the movie as part of their ongoing reshoots. Ironically, Seth isn't the first member of his family to be cut, as Becky Lynch filmed a post-credits scene for Marvel's Eternals, which was nixed for being too depressing. Rollins has thrived in playing a villain, but his big break in the MCU wasn't meant to be, in disappointing news for fans and moviegoers alike. Since 2021, Bad Bunny has wowed WWE fans with his skills in the ring, and with WrestleMania 40 drawing closer, there's been speculation about another match. Bunny hasn't wrestled since Backlash 2023, where he defeated Damian Priest, but sources who reached out to Sportskeeda said Bunny isn't scheduled to wrestle this coming April. Of course, that could change, but for the time being, don't expect the Grammy Award-winning artist to step between the ropes in Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. When Bayley won the 2024 Women's Royal Rumble match, a special WWE 2K graphic was shared online, showing what the role model will look like in 2K24. The graphic quickly went viral, with fans mocking how little the model resembles the actual SmackDown superstar, with the virtual Bayley's hairline being especially bad. On Twitter, Bayley herself reacted to the graphic with two simple words, "Help me." Bayley, like others, clearly isn't a fan of how she's depicted in the upcoming game, and hopefully someone at 2K will fix the model for the Women's Royal Rumble winner. More from the Rumble, and after Brock Lesnar was pulled from the men's match, Bron Breakker took his place and eliminated 4 men before being thrown out by Dominic Mysterio. Post-match, Breakker said that he wasn't done with the Judgment Day and that the main roster is his home, fueling speculation that a fully fledged call-up is in process. Speaking to Tim and Eli on the Battleground podcast, NXT head Shawn Michaels was asked about Bron's comment about the main roster and said, "He may feel like that's his home, but he still has work here in NXT to do whether he likes it or not. Our job is to lose talent. He's one that I'm going to have trouble letting him go. I can assure you that there is more left for Bron Breakker here at NXT one way or another. He's an incredibly talented, very gifted young man. As far as I'm concerned, he's young and, as we say, full of piss and vinegar. If he wants to double time, he can certainly do it, but I'm not letting him go that easy." When Bron Breakker debuted in 2021, there were immediate talks about being fast-tracked to the main roster, but instead he's taken his time in NXT. Now Breakker is a 2-time NXT champion and one of the Gold brand's top stars, and do you think he's ready for the main roster? Let us know in the comments section below. At the Royal Rumble, TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace shocked the world by entering the Women's Rumble match and lasted close to 20 minutes. Grace appeared with her Knockouts championship no less from the number 5 position, and fewer people were more shocked by her Rumble appearance than Grace herself. In a video shared by TNA's Twitter, Grace revealed how her surprise appearance at the Rumble came about, saying Scott D'Amore called her after the Monday TNA tapings. Grace was surprised to hear D'Amore talk about the Rumble, and the TNA president joked that he wanted her to jump the barricade during the Women's Rumble. The TNA Knockout said she found this more realistic than WWE directly asking TNA for her, but clearly had a blast during her time in Tropicana Field. Grace remains under contract with TNA, leaving many to believe this was just a one-off appearance, though clearly you can never say never with WWE's new administration. When Grace walked out in front of the fans, everyone was surprised, and Pat McAfee was truly perplexed as to who this muscle-bound woman was. Turns out that this was no act by McAfee, as on his show, the popular broadcaster admitted that he genuinely had no clue who Grace was when he spotted her in Gorilla. It was only live during the broadcast that McAfee learned about Grace and her TNA Knockouts title reign, and Pat was impressed by the absolutely jocked wrestler. It's unclear if Jordynne Grace will appear for WWE again, but the Rumble won't be the last time she faces WWE talent if both she and Natalya have their way. During an interview with Steve Fall, Grace mentioned that she'd love to wrestle Ivy Nile and Natalya in TNA, and on Twitter, Natalya said she'd jump at the chance to do this. In a response of her own, Grace shared some eyes emoji and an hourglass, indicating that she's counting the seconds until she and the Queen of Hearts lock horns again. Grace made an impact, pardon the pun, with her WWE in-ring debut, and could we see more crossover with TNA wrestling? Only time will tell. Earlier this month, Mercedes Monet's New Japan theme was removed from online music vendors, leading to speculation as to what this meant for her wrestling career. Well, now Monet's theme and profile has been restored to Apple Music and will be returning to Spotify soon enough, only raising more questions as to what the future holds for her. At the Royal Rumble, Naomi returned to WWE after close to 2 years away and had a seriously impressive showing during the Women's Rumble match. Now fans will have their first chance to hear from the former TNA Knockouts champion, as it's been confirmed that she'll be appearing on today's episode of The Bump. It's been reported that Naomi will be part of SmackDown going forward, and it'll be interesting to see what she does after such a roller coaster couple of years. And we're ending with Sami Zayn, who made the save on Raw when Drew McIntyre attacked an injured CM Punk, but was unable to defeat the Scotsman in the main event. This match was Zayn's first singles match in almost 2 months, and in a post-show promo, Sami admitted that physically he still wasn't feeling too good. Zayn added that despite spending months out with an injury, he was focused on returning in time for this week's Raw in Tampa and put over the importance of the city. Zayn mentioned how many WWE superstars, including WrestleMania main eventers, moved to Tampa, as he did when he first signed with the promotion. Sami Zayn expressed gratitude to the Tampa crowd, attributing the city's significance to the years of support and enthusiasm from the fans. This was a passionate promo by the former Intercontinental Champion, and did you get the chance to see it live in Tampa? If you did, let us know down below.